Cincinnati is sold out. The Minnesota Vikings and the Cincinnati Bengals have won 2 of their first 3 games, surprisingly so, and they meet in an interconference battle this afternoon. And good afternoon again, everyone. I'm Dick Stockton along with Randy Cross, and I guess today, Randy, will find out really how good these teams are after their good starts. What do you anticipate?
Well, if I'm Minnesota, I want to do what I do best, and that's protect my quarterback early so Rich Gannon's confidence level's up. He is playing with a broken hand, and I want to win on first down so I can set up some pass rushing. And if I'm Cincinnati, I do 2 things. I run the ball effectively, and I rush the passer. I go after him, and I say, doggone, if I'm going to give up a big play, that's the breaks. Let's take a look at this game. Offense, I think the edge has got to go to the Bengals with their running game. Defense, Minnesota, more complete. Special teams, Bengals, team speed. Minnesota, intangible. This crowd here in the jungle in Cincinnati can be a huge, huge edge for the Bengals.
Well, they beat the Raiders earlier this year for one of their big wins, and so we'll see what happens here. The Vikings have won the toss. Jim Breach will kick off for Cincinnati. Keith Henderson is back with Darren Nelson, and it'll be Darren Nelson at the 2 returning for the Vikings. And he breaks a couple of tackles with only Breach back. And finally, Darren Nelson is wrestled down after getting into Cincinnati territory. A return of 53 yards. Antoine Bennett made the tackle for Cincinnati. A big start for the Vikings, and we'll see how Rich Gannon answers the broken bone in his throwing hand. The offensive front for the Vikings: Gary Zimmerman, Randall McDaniel, Kirk Loudermilk, Brian Habib, and Tim Irwin. Steve Jordan is the H-back. Terry Allen, the running back, and the 3 wide receivers: Chris Carter, Anthony Carter, and Hassan Jones. First down on the Bengal 45-yard line, and Gannon will throw on first down, and his pass to the tight end Steve Jordan or Anthony Carter is good for 14 yards. Defensively for the Cincinnati Bengals, Lamar Rogers, the veteran Tim Crumry, the nose tackle, and Alonzo Mitz up front. Francis, Ricardo McDonald, a rookie from Pitt, Kevin Walker, a linebacker. Jones, Thomas, Williams, and Vinson, the secondary. First and 10 at the 31-yard line. In motion is Jordan, and Terry Allen with a good run on first down, and the Vikings bursting out at the start of this game, and a 9-yard gain by Allen with Ricardo McDonald making the tackle.
Good job of the Minnesota line up front of just manning up with their people and keeping the surface on the Bengals. Terry Allen, all he really had to do was pick his hole, watch the defenders move, and just make his break.
Second down and 1 on the 22-yard line of the Bengals. It's quieted the crowd with that big kickoff return. Allen carries and may get a yard, and that's all he needed. Jim Crumry, the nose tackle, making the stop for Cincinnati.
Well, get used to hearing that name, Tim Crumry, a lot out there, because Crumry is a guy that just attacks constantly. And Kirk Loudermilk told us yesterday, he said, hey, look, Crumry will be there. I had to tell the other linemen, don't take your eye off this guy. He never stops and he never quits.
They're going to measure to see whether the Vikings have a first down. 53-yard kickoff return by Darren Nelson, and it is a first down for the Vikings. Minnesota has never won here at Riverfront Stadium. These teams have played 6 times previously, and the Vikings are 0-3 here at Riverfront.
Well, they did a lot better last time. They only lost 23-20. The first 2 times they played, they were shut out here.
They have not played each other for 3 years, but Gannon has the Vikings on the move. First and 10 on the 20. Again, they go to Terry Allen up the middle, and he gets a few. A 4-yard gain by Allen, who had his career high with 26 rushing attempts against the Buccaneers last week. McDonald again on the tackle for Cincinnati.
And the one thing to remember about this Cincinnati Bengals defense is normally when you get down here in the scoring, the red zone, defenses blitz. Defenses come after offenses. This defense comes after offenses everywhere.
Second down and 7, wide receivers to the right. Gannon will try his second pass. He sees the receivers covered. He's in trouble. And he is tackled by Lamar Rogers. A good job by the Bengals secondary, under fire last week against the Packers on the final drive.
And what gave them the edge on that play, Dick, was they only rushed 4 people in the defensive line, and they dropped 7. Very rarely will you see a Ron Lynn defense do that type of thing, drop that many people in the coverage. Gannon just had nowhere to go, and it was a good job of late containment by the linebackers coming up and hemming him in and forcing him back inside the lineman.
So here's a 3rd and 5 coming up. Gannon gets blitzed, and the pass is caught by Allen out of the backfield, and the Vikings score. Terry Allen with his first receiving touchdown of the year, and the Minnesota Vikings score on their initial drive, a 15-yard pass play from Rich Gannon.
Now watch the blitz here, come from the outside. Gannon reads it immediately and just flips this out. Then it's one-on-one. This is a situation the defensive backs have to hate on this team for the Bengals. They get put in that one-on-one situation. You got Terry Allen 5 yards to the goal line. I like Allen in that matchup every time.
Juan Revez is successful with the conversion. And so the Minnesota Vikings, sparked by a 53-yard kickoff return by Darren Nelson, take a 7-0 lead. Dave Shula's Bengals back on their heels. They don't know what hit them. And we'll see how they respond offensively now as the Vikings take a 7-0 lead as Boomer Esiason gets set to lead the Cincinnati offense.
Well, Boomer told us yesterday, hey, the only reason we've been running the ball so much is we've jumped out on people and we've gone to the run just to sort of maintain the lead. Well, Boomer's going to have an opportunity here to throw the ball, and that means Chris Dolman and company have an opportunity to go after Boomer.
So a different set of circumstances, unusual for the Bengals to trail early as Revez gets set to kick off. Back deep for Cincinnati, Eric Paul and Milt Stiegel. Stiegel is on the left. And Revez with a kick will be returned by Ball at the 4-yard line. And unlike the Cincinnati special teams, Minnesota was right there in a 10-yard return. Jake Reed making the tackle. Offensively up front, Munoz, Kozerski, Arthur, Strafford, Walter. The offensive line, Holman the tight end, Green and Ball the running backs, Tim McGee and Carl Pickens are the wide receivers. As they will start from the 15-yard line, 1st and 10. Harold Green has been a big rusher and will be out of the backfield on a screen pass on 1st down, and the Bengals will move it out and get a 1st down beyond the 25-yard line, a gain of 11. Lee and Del Rio on the stop. Defensively for the Vikings, Noga, Thomas, Randall, and Dolman. The defensive line has been a big plus. Jenkins, Del Rio, and Merriweather, the linebackers. Lee and McMillan on the corners, and Wright and Scott, the safeties. 1st down on the 26. And here is Green looking for running room, and the line closes up after a short gain by Harold Green, a pickup of only 2 with Al Noga making the stop.
Well, that was more of a Barry Sanders 2 yards, though, Dick. That was the 2 yards that Green got by himself. Dolman, good penetration coming from the backside underneath Anthony Munoz, tried to disrupt that play.
And a handoff. On a 1-yard loss, Randall hit Green on the quick opener. So we're going to see a lot of that for the Cincinnati Bengals, the no huddle, to keep the Vikings from putting their substitutes on.
There's a difference. The Bengals generally go in the no huddle. This is more of a hurry up offense, more like the Buffalo Bills style.
3rd down and 10 on the 26. Esiason gets rushed, and the pass is picked off. Audrey McMillan with the interception, and the Minnesota Vikings will take over in Cincinnati territory. It was Carlos Jenkins who came in on the blitz, something that the Vikings rarely do defensively, Randy.
But they told us, hey, we got to go after Boomer a little bit, make him think, and make him not be so confident. Here comes Carlos Jenkins from the left, 51, and Boomer just puts this ball up. There's really no excuse. He puts it up, and here comes Carlos Jenkins. No one to block him. Boomer puts it up there, and that's either a miscommunication between the receivers and the quarterback or just a bad throw.
7-0 in favor of the Vikings, and they have a first down, and the ball is tipped as Gannon is flushed out of the pocket. As you see some pressure from the Cincinnati defense that time. That was Daniel Stubbs coming in on Gannon as the Vikings start in Cincinnati territory.
They got some good pressure on Gannon and tipped that ball a little bit. Tim Crumry, coming from his, what was a left defensive tackle position, twisted an ankle a little bit at the end of that play.
So it's 2nd and 10. Up the middle is Terry Allen on a quick opener and a good trap. And Allen carries it out, and a penalty marker down to the 38-yard line, a gain of 9 yards, but there is a flag. Our first penalty of the game, and Gordon McCarter, our referee, and it'll be a holding penalty against Minnesota. One of the things Dennis Green pointed out before the game on the field, he says this refereeing crew has called more penalties in the first 3 games than any other crew in the league.
Holding, number 74.
You think they're aware of such things, Randy?
Repeat 2nd down.
I guarantee you they're aware of these things. Here's the area that you would normally see Tim Crumry. The Minnesota Vikings know he's not in there. Do a great job. Watch Loudermilk to center. Block back, cut block from the backside on Fryer, and Allen just pops it right in the middle.
Brian Habib was the guilty party on the hold, so it's 2nd down and 20. Vikings back on their own 44-yard line. Anthony Carter in motion, and a fake end around, and a flip pass to Terry Allen. He's got blockers in front of him. Allen gets into Bengal territory. And a nifty piece of running by Terry Allen, and he may have another first down. A gain of 21 yards. He got it by a yard. It was Ricardo McDonald who made the tackle, and good blocking out in front for Terry Allen.
Now watch 2 things on this play. Watch how Gannon sucks the defenders in towards him, and watch the setup of the offensive line in front of this screen. Look at the convoy. Loudermilk's out there. McDaniel's out there. And now it's just Terry Allen. He's bumping. He's running into Carter. He's twisting. He's turning. And he's getting lots of yards.
And a first down on the 35-yard line. First down, Chris Carter out on the left flat. Is out of bounds, shy of a first down, but a good pickup on first down of 7 yards. Fernandez Vincent, strong safety, making the stop on Carter, who broke out of a slump with 2 touchdown receptions last week.
What we're seeing here with the Minnesota offense against the Cincinnati defense is, for the first time in 4 games, Minnesota is dictating to Cincinnati how the pace of this game's going right now. Cincinnati, with their blitzing style, usually does the dictating.
And it all started with the opening kickoff. Roger Craig is the running back on 2nd down and 3 from the 28-yard line. And Craig gets the call, and Craig may have another first down for Minnesota. He appears to have it. Making the tackle was Kevin Walker, one of the Bengal linebackers, and a pickup of 5 yards for Roger Craig.
You know, one thing about Walker I think is extremely unique. You've got a linebacker that has recovered from 2 anterior cruciate injuries. Extremely unusual to go back-to-back and be able to come back and play at the level that Walker's playing at now.
And of course, we know of Crumry's injury in the Super Bowl against your 49er team. First down on the 24, crossing pattern to Anthony Carter, and that will be yet another first down for the Vikings. Let's see where they spot the ball. A pickup of 14. There's another penalty marker down. So right now, the Cincinnati Bengals have been playing on their heels, and a face mask penalty against Cincinnati. We'll see whether it's 5 yards or more.
I think it was incidental in the act of tackling.
Face mask, 5-yard penalty, number 31 defense. 5 yards from the end of the line, first down.
It's Darrell Williams, one of the #1 draft picks. Tell you, the Cincinnati offense has had a long time to talk things over on the sidelines. The Vikings have dominated the ball control in this quarter. First and goal on the 5. Here's Roger Craig, and he dives to about the 3-yard line. Vinson, the strong safety, made the stop.
Now, curiously, Denny Green considers this offensive line kind of undersized. You know, he's got Tim Irwin, the Lilliputian at right tackle, is only 6'7", 300 or so, and Habib's a mere 290 or so, and
tiny guys,
just little fellas, you know. So they've got to do a little more finesse in moving around. But you know, this is a line that physically should be capable of just blowing off the ball this close to the end zone.
2 tight ends for the Vikings. Second and goal on the 3. And Gannon is going to try to throw. Can't find a receiver and has to be forced out of bounds way back at about the 15-yard line. Daniel Stubbs put the rush on. That's the second time he's gotten through, and a loss of 11 yards on the play. And it'll be third and goal for the Minnesota Vikings as the Bengal defense stiffens.
The Bengal defense did one thing really well. They were able to get in Rich Gannon's face and prevent him. They hassled him. They hurried him. And what he couldn't see was he had Chris Carter, number 80, was in the slot, was wide open in the back of the end zone, but Gannon never saw him.
Hey, that Stubbs fought off a couple of blockers up front, so it's third and goal on the 15-yard line. And a good deal of motion by Minnesota. Gannon's pass up the middle, wide open. Chris Carter, touchdown Vikings. A 15-yard pass play, and the broken hand has not affected Rich Gannon as the Vikings have jumped in front here in the first quarter, 13-0, and we still have 6:25 remaining.
He could have a broken just about anything. If you're not pressuring the quarterback, he can stand in there confidently. Carter comes in motion, comes across, and that, my friends, is a blown coverage. Ron Lynn has got to get this defense on the sideline and tell them, hey, at least know who you have, because so far this Minnesota offense has completely dominated the Bengals.
Wide Revez makes it 14-0 in favor of the Vikings, and for them it was not supposed to be this easy. Cincinnati was a slight favorite coming into the game, and they have totally taken the play away from the Bengals.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by the Heartbeat of America, Chevrolet, and your local Chevy dealer. Levi's new loose-fitting jeans. And by Castrol Syntec, the new synthetic oil that protects in ways other oils can't.
Minnesota Vikings taking advantage of an Audrey McMillan interception, lead at 14-0, and Fuad Revez will be kicking off for Minnesota. Eric Ball and Milt Stiegel are back deep for Cincinnati, and it'll be Ball a yard in the end zone. And once again, the Vikings coverage teams are right there. And a return of 17 yards, Greg Minuski, the former Redskin, and Keith Henderson, the ex-49er, in on the tackle. See what Cincinnati's offense can muster when we return. 14-0 Minnesota, Randy, and that offensive line could be under siege here.
Without a doubt. You know, if I'm defensive coordinator Tony Dungy of Minnesota, my whole playbook's open now. I can take some chances. Two guys featured here. Anthony Munoz has got to shut down Chris Dolman, who's going to be coming after him. And where is Carl Pickens? Great in the preseason. Boomer hasn't gotten him involved in the first month of the season so far.
He's caught just 3 passes in the first 3 games, and they start out with the running game. Harold Green, not a bad idea for the Bengals, who can't start to go away from their plan this early. A 6-yard pickup by Green. As we have 6 minutes remaining in the first quarter, Jack Del Rio making the stop for the Vikings.
Well, they do have a physical edge up front, Cincinnati, in the fact that they are so much bigger than the defensive line of these Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota's forte is quickness and speed.
So the hurry up seems to be scrapped, and the no huddle is in vogue right now. 2nd down and 3, and a good fake and a handoff to Green. Shy of first down yardage, and that'll bring up 3rd and short. Henry Thomas and Al Noga make the tackle. So now Cincinnati will bring in Derek Fenner, the other running back that they use along with Green. Green will come out of the game, so more of a power offense on 3rd and 1 and 2 tight ends.
And so far this year, Cincinnati has run predominantly to their right. They'll go to wherever they think they have a size advantage.
3rd down and 1, and a play fake, a bootleg. Boomer Esiason will get the first down. A good call by the Bengals, and Boomer's calling those plays. A pickup of 15 yards on the bootleg. John Randall the tackle, and a first down for Cincinnati.
Great play call. Great play call. Boomer executed executed that perfectly. They have the advantage on the right side going against Randall and Noga, undersized linemen, faked wonderfully to the right, and Boomer kept that completely naked and open.
Again, the no-huddle offense, and Green on the quick opener. Still going is Harold Green, and he may have another first down for Cincinnati as the Bengals, undaunted by a 14-0 deficit here in the first quarter. Del Rio makes the stop, and it is another first down as Harold Green picks up 11 yards. He's off to a brilliant start in this season.
Well, you go with what brought you, and what brought Cincinnati this far to a 2-1 record is rushing for 170 yards a game.
First down at midfield, and an inside handoff to Eric Ball. And Ball gets very little, if anything. Give him a yard, and that'll bring up second down, but at least Cincinnati is out of big danger starting from their 15.
Tony Dungy and Danny Green of Minnesota believe they've got to win first downs. Doesn't matter which first down, but if you win a first down like that, set up 2nd and 9, you're setting yourself up for a potential 3rd and long and a chance to rush the passer.
2nd down and 9 on the 49 of the Vikings. Tim McGee now shifts. Science is like a movie director out there calling the play. They get it off with 4 seconds on the clock, and Esiason with wide open McGee overthrows it. Tim McGee was open for the moment. Carl Lee and Todd Scott came up late, and we have not seen any kind of long passes from Esiason.
Well, that play right there, you saw at the very end. At the very end, Todd Scott coming in to semi-break that up. That's a play that needed less of a flip and more zip. Needed to get that ball there with a little more authority, and he would have had him.
Again, the no-huddle, 3rd down and 9. Brian Brennan has come in. He's in the slot, number 83. On the 49-yard line, and a good rush, and down goes Esiason. And the Vikings, who have 11 quarterback sacks, way up from a year ago. John Randall makes the tackle, and a loss of 9 yards on the play.
Well, Randall and Noga come up straight up the middle. There's Randall 93, Noga 99, and Chris Dolman says you got to cut a big quarterback like Boomer down. You can't grab him by the shoulder, you can't grab him by the foot, you got to slice him in half.
Lee Johnson injured his back in Friday's practice, did not come out and practice at all. Jim Breach or even David Klingler, the backup quarterback, would have done the kicking, but Johnson is going to give it a shot. Anthony Parker is back deep for the Vikings. Kick is nearly blocked by Merriweather, and a fine kick by Johnson, and it will go out of bounds right around the 10-yard line. They'll mark it at about the 16. And the Cincinnati crowd feels that it was much inside the 16. A 41-yard kick. Vikings ball when we return. Bengals showed a little life, but they seem to be out of sync right now.
Right, they seem to be the one hurrying in the hurry-up offense, not Minnesota. And Tony Dungy, Minnesota's defensive coordinator, said if you're going to hurry up on us, that means you keep your 11, we keep our 11. And right now, the Minnesota 11 is better than the Cincinnati 11 when Cincinnati's got the ball.
14-0 in favor of the Vikings. A first down on the 16. Terry Allen dives forward for a few. Gain of 1. Lamar Rogers making the tackle. Averaging over 5 yards a carry and 2 touchdowns rushing, 1 receiving. He's not a big back, and the Vikings hope that he stays durable throughout this year.
Well, he's got some backup in Darren Nelson, and more importantly, Roger Craig, the former 49er, has really been a plus. They want to get him about 10 carries a game.
2nd down and 9 for Gannon. Up the middle, the pass to Chris Carter. He's hit immediately. It'll bring up 3rd and about 4. It was Kevin Walker making the tackle. On the last drive, Gannon was 6 for 7, or so far in the game, in 86 yards, and he continues to have a terrific percentage, as you see, 91 yards thus far.
Well, so far, a defense that has really been a forte has been rushing the passers. Minnesota's had maximum protection or great protection. Gannon hasn't really been hit yet.
3rd down and 4 on the 22-yard line. There's the Gannon's pass, and here's Chris Carter. He's there for the first down. So they have not tested Gannon, and that injured hand, a pickup of 10 yards, and the Vikings continue to move the chains.
Chris Carter coming out of the inside position. Hassan Jones clearing things out deep. Carter just comes right underneath him. That's just game planning. That's a weakness that Minnesota has seen in the films, and they're able to take advantage on a crucial third down.
Already with 4 catches and a touchdown for Chris Carter. First down on the 33. They give it to Terry Allen, and Allen brings it out to the 40-yard line. A gain of 7 for Allen. Fernandez Vincent making the tackle, and too many tackles being made by the Bengals secondary in this first quarter.
But the main thing is the offensive line and the tight ends so far of Minnesota are gashing the first 3 or 4 yards of the Cincinnati defense. That's why you're seeing so many of the safeties making tackles.
Nearly a minute remaining in this first quarter, totally dominated by the Minnesota Vikings. They have a second down and 3 on their 40. Terry Allen, and this time the Bengal defense closes in, and a pickup of only 1, and that will bring up 3rd and short. That was Kevin Walker on the tackle for Cincinnati.
You know, you think of Cincinnati as being a 3-4 type team, but look what's happening in here. They're leaving all this area in the middle open for a center like Loudermilk to block back and block around. And Minnesota's taking advantage. Right there, a good job by Fryer getting penetration and breaking that play up. But if they don't clog that middle, Minnesota will take it all day.
3rd down and 3. Let's see if they take it again. And that pass caught by Carter, and that will be good enough for another first down. So the short passes out on the flat have been open, and then up the middle, they have done what they wanted, and Darrell Williams making the tackle.
Well, what they did there was what they did on 3rd down the last time, only they did it on the left side of the field instead of the right side of the field. The receiver went up deep. The slot receiver came under for the first down.
And that is the end of the first quarter here in Cincinnati with the score: the Vikings 14, the Bengals nothing. Welcome back to Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, along with Randy Cross. This is Dick Stockton. As we start the second quarter, it's been all Minnesota, leading Cincinnati 14-0. But for the Vikings, Audrey McMillan, who intercepted an Esiason pass leading to a Viking touchdown, has a sprained shoulder, and he's questionable about returning. Dennis Green, who just everything he earned as a young kid. He was in high school in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, worked supervising maintenance crews on the graveyard shift. He coached at Stanford out in the Pacific Coast area, and of course at Northwestern. Didn't win many games, but he must have made his mark somewhere.
Well, he's gotten these guys undivided attention at Minnesota, and you can tell they are now playing with a commitment and a purpose that really wasn't there the last few years.
1st and 10 on the 45-yard line of the Vikings, and the quick toss out to Chris Carter. It's been there all day for Carter. He has 6 receptions. He got 3 yards on that play with Fernandez Vincent again making the tackle.
And right now, Minnesota, like I said before, is dictating things to the Cincinnati team, no matter when they're on offense or defense. Right now, they're running their entire playbook. They seem very calm, very confident. They're doing any run they want, and very shortly, you're going to see them go long and quit the short dinking stuff.
2nd down and 6. Play fake, and Gannon with another wide open receiver. It's Chris Carter again. He is out of bounds. The Bengals have not been able to solve Chris Carter being open. It's a 10-yard pickup, and he has caught now 7 passes and 1 touchdown pass. It was Vincent again defending.
It's not real complicated. Here's Carter, 80, was in motion. They're using either Hassan Jones or Anthony Carter as the other receiver, running off coverage to that side and just dragging Carter underneath for the quick gimme.
Chris Carter came into the game having caught 8 passes this season. He has 7 already in this game. And Gannon's going to get sacked. Storming in was James Francis, and he came right up the middle for the 2nd sack of the game by the Cincinnati defense. A loss of 7 yards.
Not real complicated. This is just a blitz right straight through here. Check this out. Protection looks to be good. Doesn't look like a blitz coming. But now here comes Francis, right straight through the middle. Cincinnati can give you so many different looks. They use linebackers as linemen, linemen as linebackers. Stubbs is a defensive end, is listed as a linebacker. They can confuse an offensive line.
Interchangeable parts, and Gannon with 2nd down and 16. Dangerous pass caught by Jordan. Steve Jordan on the reception, and that might have been deep trouble for the Vikings. Ricardo McDonald makes the tackle in traffic in a gain of 2 yards.
Good job by Daniel Stubbs coming from the defensive right side. Look at him right there, tip the ball. And a fantastic job of concentration by Jordan, because Stubbs read that to be a quick little flip to the tight end, was rushing the passer, stopped, went to knock it down, and Jordan hung with it the entire way.
And the crowd urges on the Bengal defense. 3rd and 15. And Gannon calls timeout on 3rd and long. And the first timeout used by the Vikings here in this first half. They lead 14-0. Vikings have used a timeout to talk things over on 3rd and long. They are in Cincinnati territory at the 45-yard line. The drive started on their own 16-yard line. It'll be 3rd down and 13.
And you can't help but think, Dick, that they're doing so much of this running the receivers off one way and dragging a slot guy underneath. They've got to be setting up the receivers, the safeties, trying to get them to start sucking up, try to bite on that short play and bring an Anthony Carter either from the front side or the back side deep in the post.
They really have played it smart, because they have not gotten deep as Green Bay did in that final drive to beat the Bengals last week, and they know it's coming. They just don't know when.
But what they've done so far, and we've said it a few times, is they have dictated the pace of this game to the Cincinnati Bengals.
And there you see Terry Allen with the first touchdown as a receiver, 15 yards. Gannon off to a great start. Chris Carter with his 3rd touchdown catch of the game. 3rd down and 13. And they rush 7.
The blitz.
On Gannon on the blitz. He gets away from one, but he can't get away from the other. And he is sacked back in his own territory. It was Alfred Williams who came storming in. A linebacker is a defensive end, and a loss of 16 yards will put the Vikings into a punting situation.
Yeah, I know it's a cliche, but this is a jailbreak. Look at this. One guy. Here comes another. I'll duck under him. Here comes 5 more. I'll duck under them. Ain't going to work. You're going down.
And the 3rd sack of the game for a Cincinnati defense that came in with 15 on the year. And now it'll be Harry Newsom punting for the first time. And back deep is Carl Pickens. Pickens will start from the 16-yard line. Pickens is out of bounds. Jack Del Rio drove him out of bounds. Last week, Pickens returned 195 yards, the longest punt return in Bengal history. This time he returned to 26.
And David Shula says, one of those deals is something you see him on the sideline, you pat him on the back, you tell him what a great job he did. Then the next day when you watch films, you might want to drop a little thing in his ear that, Mr. Pickens, next time, 5-yard line's a little risky for catching a punt. Maybe you want to let that one go.
That's what he did last week against Green Bay. And now we expect that maybe we'll see him on the offense. 2nd-round draft pick out of Tennessee. And a first down for Boomer and the Bengals on their 42.
The Bengals need to play at their pace.
Harold Green bounces off a defender and brings it out to the 45-yard line, a gain of 3 yards. Making the tackle was Chris Dolman.
See that offensive line. Coach Michael's been there for years. Coaching that offensive line in Minnesota's got a real veteran group. They're trying to solve that blitz puzzle.
Anthony Parker has replaced Audrey McMillan at cornerback. McMillan out of the game with a sprained shoulder. Vincey Glenn is also in the secondary for Minnesota. 2nd and 7. Esiason has some time, and the pass is caught by Pickens. And that's the man they want to get into their offensive scheme. And And Pickens has a first down and more, a gain of 13 yards into Viking territory before the veteran Carl Lee knocked him out of bounds.
In the preseason this year, Dick, this guy absolutely leaped off the television screen when you watch these games. So far this year, they've ran the ball very effectively, but he has not been a factor. With his ability, once he gets his hands on the ball, he's much like a John Taylor of San Francisco. He can get it.
That's quite a testimonial. First down on the 42-yard line. And the handoff is to Green, and he has hit and hit hard after picking up a couple by Henry Thomas. Thomas is playing with a bruised thigh, but that defensive line of the Minnesota Vikings has been the biggest improvement in Tony Dungy's crew.
And one of the great things they did was last year Henry Thomas played the off tackle in this over and under defense. Now they have him on the nose. He's a natural nose who can dominate that 6 to 9 foot area inside of a defense.
Second down and 8. 14-0 in favor of the Vikings. Again, they run the ball to Harold Green off the right side, and now they are faced with a 3rd and 6 after the 1-yard pickup. Jenkins and Dolman on the play, and so Esiason has to go to the air on this one.
Well, remember Tony Dungy's goal, to win a first down, to set up a 2nd and long. We'll give him 2 or 3 yards. This sets up a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. Now you know he's got to pass. Now you turn the hosses loose and you come after the quarterback.
Pickens lines up to the top of the screen with Anthony Parker. Riggs in motion as well. The rollout of the pass to Riggs is incomplete. They were going for the tight end in motion. Carl Lee was defending on the play. So once again, the Cincinnati Bengals come up empty, and they will kick it away. Lee Johnson comes on to punt for Cincinnati.
Riggs is the motion man, but importantly, they put pressure in Boomer's face. He tries to roll left. He throws this ball a little low and away. And Lee does a good job of following right through that tight end. But even if he'd have caught it, that was not a first down.
Lee Johnson will kick. Anthony Parker back deep. Plan B pickup from the Indianapolis Colts. Johnson with a good kick over the head of Parker. And Cincinnati can't keep it in play as it will go into the end zone for a touchback. Leonard Wheeler hustling downfield for the Bengals, but the Vikings will begin from the 20-yard line when we return with nearly 5 minutes elapsed in the second quarter. Next Sunday, following the NFL Today, most of you will see the Bears and the Vikings in a big NFC Central battle. The Green Bay Packers play in Atlanta, and in the late games, it's the Rams and the 49ers. Some of you will see Washington and Phoenix. First down on the 20 for Minnesota. Roger Craig in the game, gets a yard, maybe 2, and that's all. Gannon off to a great start passing-wise, and most of those receivers have been wide open. He is 12 of 13 and 2 touchdowns so far.
And we talked about first down being very important for the Minnesota defense. Another good example of first down being extremely important for Cincinnati. They held him to 2 yards there. Now Ron Lynn and this defense can go back to attacking.
Second down and 8. And here is an end around to Anthony Carter. And he is tackled from behind, shy of the 30-yard line, a gain of 5. And for an NFL Today update, here's Greg Gumbel in New York. Greg?
All right, Dick, at Soldier Field in Chicago, watch the quick Jim Harbaugh to Tom Waddle pass, 41 yards and a touchdown, but the Falcons came right back. Chris Miller to Andre Rison for 71 yards. They've ended the first quarter, about to begin the second, 17-7 Bears. Dick?
All right, Greg, so Andre Rison getting into the action today.
Well, after that report on NFL Today, you're really surprised how hard he really wants to play for Jerry Glanville.
Third down and 2.
Well, it's finger pointing time.
It was Lamar Rogers who jumped off sides. Question is, was he drawn off? And that's what the conference is all about.
In case they need any help, Rich Gannon's going to give them a little input there.
Gordon McCarter.
Full start before the snap. 82 on the offense.
Dante Whitaker.
Still third down.
Viking tight end, and so it'll be 3rd down and 7 coming up.
Watch the quiver at the top of the screen right there. See the head and the rear end kind of pop up? That's all it takes. If he was to do that, then get set as a tight end, it's legal. But if the defender reacts on that first motion, then it's illegal procedure.
3rd and 7 on the 23-yard line. Hassan Jones comes wide to the left. They haven't gone his way yet. Gannon has time, and his pass is caught. And it's Chris Carter once again, who is having a terrific first half. 14-yard gain that time with Rod Jones defending.
Chris Carter working out of the slot here is just schooling Cincinnati right now. Nothing fancy. Look at that. Watch him. He's just getting to where his quarterback can get him the ball. This is not anything deeply planned, but right now Rod Jones, in that case, was not able to stay with Chris Carter.
He has caught 8 passes, and that's as many as he has caught coming into this game. First down. Jordan, the tight end, in motion, and Gannon looking to throw, and he's going to run it. Trying to protect that right hand in the process, and he picks up about 3 yards. Kevin Walker brought that to an end. 7.5 minutes remaining in the first half. Dennis Green and the Minnesota Vikings, who have never won here at Riverfront Stadium, are in front 14-0 with 2 early scores, sparked by a 53-yard kickoff return by Darren Nelson off the opening kickoff of the game.
Well, the last possession, Cincinnati really had Minnesota not a disadvantage, but back on their heels, attacking. So far in this possession, you have not seen a blitz. Cincinnati physically can't play these guys straight up.
2nd down and 7. Gannon with a straight drop, and the pass nearly intercepted. They were going for Chris Carter again, and Gannon threw it into coverage, and it was knocked down and nearly picked off by Rod Jones.
And Rod Jones has been a guy that's taken a lot of heat here locally. That big play last week for the touchdown to beat him. People say, well, Rod Jones should have covered him. Yeah, he should have covered him, but it wasn't the right coverage. Jones was at a disadvantage. Right here, good athletic move. Watch this. Leaping up with one hand to knock it away, but doesn't think to bring the second hand out until after he touches it with the first one.
Rod Jones trying to erase last week's dismal failure down the stretch. 3rd down and 7. And Gannon, the throw, and it's caught by Carter again. He is shy of the first down. Or let's see. He does have the first down. A pickup of 8 yards shy of midfield. And that extra leap forward by Carter did the job.
You see him patting himself on the head like, hey, get me out of here. Watch him delay. Hassan Jones clears things out with Rod Jones in front of him. Carter just goes up and sits down, and there is no one near him and no one even close or around him. And he gets that first down with that late sort of touchdown lunge with the ball.
His 9th catch of the game. First down. Here's Rich Gannon. No receivers open. And the Cincinnati secondary again doing the job downfield. Elston Rigel with the sack, or the tackle that time, as Gannon gained a couple. And they spot the ball at the 49, so no gain by Rich Gannon on that.
Another example of Cincinnati rushing forward, dropping 7. They've got them covered deep, and for once underneath, they're covering the slots right there on that play. That's why Gannon had to rush.
Terry Allen is the running back on 2nd down and 10. On the Vikings 49. Pressure from behind. Gannon loses the ball. And Terry Allen apparently recovered for the Vikings.
Alfred Williams, great job coming in there and stripping that ball, I think.
Alfred Williams with his 2nd sack of the game, and number 5 already for Cincinnati.
Here comes Williams, number 94. Goes up too far upfield, comes back, and does the grab him with the left arm and strip him with the right. Allen's lucky he was in on pass protection that time, or that's Cincinnati ball.
Last year, the Bengals had only 21 quarterback sacks. All year, they have 20 on the season right now. What a difference a year makes.
What a difference a coordinator makes. Ron Lynn lets these guys go after the quarterback.
And 4:56 to go. And timeout called by the Vikings. So that's their 2nd of this first half. And it'll be 3rd down and long as Dennis Green and company talk it over.
Excuse me.
Well, the one thing that is apparent in this game, Randy, is they're not using Chris Carter as a decoy. He has caught 9 passes in this half.
If I'm the Bengals, I want to know where he is right now for this whole play. And I also want to know one thing. How much pressure can I get on Gannon? He can't throw to Carter from his back.
3rd down and 6 from the 47 of Cincinnati. And Gannon's pass is caught. And this time it was Anthony Carter. And it's good enough for a first down. A pickup of 11 yards. So the Vikings continue despite that last sack, and they are deeper in Cincinnati territory.
Well, so far this has to have been a frustrating half for Anthony Carter, working as the topside receiver. Just goes to the first down marker, pushes off a little bit and gets the ball. You know, Anthony so far has just been a decoy. Here's a guy who's had some great games. He thinks 6 on every play.
How about Hassan Jones? He hasn't caught a pass yet. Here's a fake, and they go deep to Hassan Jones, and he's got the ball at the 5 and out of bounds inside the 5 at the 3. Vincent makes the stop. He came in as the leading receiver on the Vikings, and he makes his first reception, good for 34 yards. And they're knocking on the door again.
Whoa! Watch this. Watch his pump fake. What does that do? That makes Eric Thomas just about drop his drawers and fall on the ground. He's so faked out. Vincent saves a touchdown, but I got to tell you, Eric Thomas just chomped on that pump fake and left Hassan Jones wide open.
The 11th play of the drive coming up, and a 1st and goal on the 2-yard line. And Terry Allen dives in for the touchdown, his 2nd touchdown of the game, and the Vikings are in front now at a very silent Riverfront crowd of 20-0.
And this is just what Denny Green wanted. Get off to a quick start, and you tell the Bengals what they're going to do. Good job up front. The entire right side. I mean, and that's not so-called the all-pro strength side, but when you got guys like Habib and Tim Irwin at 300 pounds, along with Steve Jordan collapsing it, Allen had no contest.
Juan Revez with Newsome holding. And he adds the 21st point. So the Minnesota Vikings took a toehold at the start of this game, and they have not let go. It's 21-0. Well, Dave Shula is watching the Minnesota Vikings as they looked in preseason when they allowed only 6 points in 4 games. They're up 21-0 with 3:46 to go in the first half.
That right there is not a happy camper, and he should not be happy. His Bengal team has spent the entire first half, right now about 26.5 minutes of it, kind of reeling backwards. They have not taken too many forward steps in the entire time they've been out so far.
Juan Revez will kick off. Eric Ball and Milt Stiegel. There is Eric Ball. And a line drive kick will sail out of the end zone. And that's what you want from your kicker, as the Bengals will start from the 20.
Oh, now watch this. Hassan Jones and Eric Thomas are at the bottom of the screen. I mean, this is great. Watch this. Watch this. Watch Gannon. And watch the receiver and the defensive back at the bottom of the screen. Now watch the pump fake. Oh, goodness, he's gone. He had that in covered. He was going to be all over that in when Gannon threw it, but
He was going to pick it off and run down the sideline. Instead, he had to walk to the sideline after the score.
Oh, yeah, unfortunately, he had to walk to the sideline where David Shula was standing.
First down on the 20 for the Bengals, trailing by 3 touchdowns. Esiason under siege, has to get rid of it in a hurry, and great rush coming in by the Minnesota defense. George Hinkle and Chris Dolman, who's having a marvelous year, with 5 sacks coming into this game.
Well, watch Hinkle, Dolman, and 93 Randall, the old meet you at the quarterback. Here's a quarterback meeting. Look at Dolman. Woof. Boomer needs better protection than that.
He's 2 for 6 for only 24 yards and an interception. He'll go to the air again, and the pass is caught by Riggs and dropped. And he was hit immediately by Anthony Parker. Credit Parker from jarring the Bengals tight end.
Well, they've been calling this offense sort of the dink thing. You know, Boomer kids about the king of dink title now with his passing game, but this offense in general has been more stinking and dinking than anything else.
Well, he said, I don't mind it as long as we win, but they're down 3 touchdowns, and I think he may want to think deep before long.
Not deep so much, Dick, as they need to get the ball past the yardage markers. They haven't thrown a ball in back of the first down marker yet.
And a whistle and several penalty markers down, and an illegal procedure call may be upcoming.
Ball strike before the snap, 76 offense.
Kirk Scrappard, who is the lightest of the offensive linemen, the right guard of the Bengals. That'll make matters worse for him.
When you're an offensive lineman and you're in this position, you're backed up, you're down by 3 touchdowns. You look at those defensive linemen, there's drool coming out of their mouth. They're all leaning forward. You get a little nervous. You start jumping.
I haven't seen the drool yet, but I'm sure it's there. Third down and 15, and there's a long pass, and it's picked off. There were no Bengals around, and Todd Scott. And here come the boos. That ball was thrown right into Todd Scott's hands, the second interception thrown by the Boomer.
That was a pure pigeon pass by Boomer. He got a little pressure up front. Watch, here comes Thomas and company, getting a little bit of pressure, not much, not enough to warrant the kind of pass that was. Watch this. Who's he throwing it to? I mean, Scott's wide open. I guess he's the guy he's throwing to. That was horrible.
First down on the 41 of the Bengals, and the Vikings are hungry for more. And the pass caught by Terry Allen for just a short gain up the middle. Kevin Walker making the tackle, a gain of 2 yards as we wind down to 3 minutes to go in the first half.
Now here's a patience call for Denny Green. Denny Green is not the kind of coach, I think, that right now goes, wow, bang, go into the deep into the end zone. Denny's the kind of guy that's very content on pounding the ball, being patient. He'd like to hold this ball the rest of this half and get another 6 points.
And 3 wouldn't be that bad either with that lead. Second down and 9. And the end around to Anthony Carter. Carter looking for running room. He'll have a Viking first down. Darrell Williams on the stop. And a gain of 10 yards. So the Vikings have performed at will offensively against the Cincinnati defense.
Well, they're getting some great line surge on these running plays, and they're using Anthony Carter much like Nebraska used Johnny Rogers from that tight flanker position. He's now a factor in the running game. But what's setting him up is that line is blowing him off the ball.
Terry Allen was blocking for him on the last play. First down on the 30. Gannon's pass is pipped by Francis. Incomplete. It was intended for Jones, and 2:08 remaining, and we're getting down to the 2-minute warning.
Well, if you're Cincinnati, you best not forget about Chris Carter, because with the start he's got, you can be guaranteed that Rich Gannon hasn't forgotten where he is.
If you've just joined us, the Minnesota Vikings from the opening kickoff have totally dominated this game. Terry Allen has scored 2 touchdowns, once as a receiver, and Chris Carter with a touchdown reception, and it's 21-0, and 2 interceptions for the Viking defense on top of it all. Second down and 10. And out of bounds, shy of the first down, Terry Allen. They've used him as a receiver and a rusher almost equally today in a pickup of 8.
See, Denny Green is not what you would call a real flashy, high-risk type of a coach. I think when he came out of that San Francisco 49er offense under Bill Walsh, people expect this kind of high-tech, glitzy thing. He proved when he was at Stanford he likes to run the ball with Tommy Vardell and that big offensive line. He doesn't mind pounding it then, and he definitely does not mind being patient and conservative now.
2-minute warning here at Riverfront Stadium, and we'll return. Coming up at halftime, Greg and Terry will have scores and highlights and a two-way talk with Bill Cowher. Cowher Power, the coach of the Steelers, off to a 3-0 start. Along with Randy Cross, this is Dick Stockton here at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. A sellout crowd, disappointed because the Bengals have been undressed by the Minnesota Vikings in this first half. 21-0, and the Vikings are threatening for more on 3rd down and 2. On the 22-yard line of Cincinnati. And Terry Allen has the first down inside the 15, and the beat goes on. Darrell Williams, the rookie, making the tackle for Cincinnati.
We talked about before we went to commercial about the conservative nature of Minnesota. Watch Allen hop over, make a cut, and then just jab back. Watch this, but watch the blocking up front. Beautiful job. Habib, Irwin, trapped by McDaniel, trapped by Zimmerman. Nice cut by Allen. That's execution of your running game.
On top of that, Kevin Walker, and you talked about his knee problems in the past, is shaken up again. It looks like his left knee right there.
That's a shame. There's a guy that's probably spent the last 20 months between his two different injuries doing nothing but rehab.
Minnesota Vikings have had the ball most of this game, and they have responded. Most of their yards have been passing yards, but they have been the short passes. They have been the safe passes.
It's been the short passing game, but the rushing yards, that's not a lot of rushing yards, but that 64 yards has been why they've been able to get the passing yards. They have kept Cincinnati completely off guard.
And remember, coming into the game as Walker gets up now, the Cincinnati Bengals came in as the NFL's leading rushing team, averaging 170 yards a game. And, of course, they were behind early, and that doesn't spell good things for any team's running attack.
Well, the tough thing for that, Dick, is that you've got an offensive line and an offense that has been so rigid and so just grounded in the fact that they're going to run the ball. Now suddenly you're down by that many. You're not even going to do anything but run a drive to fool people. You're going to be passing the ball, and this is a line that has not had enough opportunities in a game to really pass block effectively. They had a great offensive line coach in Jim McNally, but this is an offensive lineman's nightmare.
Gary Reasons, the former New York Giant, has replaced Kevin Walker at inside linebacker. 1st and 10 on the 13-yard line of the Bengals. 1:51 remaining. Pass rushes on, and a catch by Jordan inside the 5 to the 1-yard line. Steve Jordan, that tight end, and of course the Vikings are looking for bigger tight ends, but they'll use Jordan as a good receiver in the meantime. James Francis made the stop to prevent the touchdown.
I'll tell you, when things are going right, they are going right. Chris Carter started in motion, was wide open in the flat. Where's Gannon throw it? Well, he drops it right into a place where he has to throw it absolutely perfectly to do it. Jordan makes a nice catch, but that's an example of a quarterback being hot.
1st down and goal, and Terry Allen will get the touchdown. They had Randall McDaniel, the left guard, as the up back, and Allen has scored his 3rd touchdown of the game, 2nd as a rusher. And the Vikings are blowing out the Bengals in the first half. Allen has gained 34 yards and 2 touchdowns.
There's McDaniel, lead block. Great lead block on Reason, number 52, just into the game for Walker. And once again, not a real hard time for Allen to score.
Quadravez, been a busy man out there, kicking extra points. He's perfect again, and it's now 28-0 in favor of the Minnesota Vikings. The 3rd touchdown today for Terry Allen. The first one was as a receiver to put the Vikings on the scoreboard, and he has run for 2 scores since. 1:10 remaining in the first half. 28-0 Minnesota, as the Vikings try to go 3-1. And keep in mind, this is a team that has been on the road, Minnesota, 5 of the last 6 weeks, including preseason. And they're going to be pleased that they're going to have some home games coming up in the next month or so.
And you know, if you're Cincinnati right here, you're going to get the ball back, and I'm sure this Riverfront Stadium would love to see Boomer make something happen. They'd love to see David Shula call something to go down the field and get some points. But the absolute worst thing that could happen to the Bengals right here is to try to make something happen and give up a turnover and possibly give up some more points. They need to get in the locker room, and they need to figure this thing out, because right now they don't have a clue.
Want to remind you, coming up at halftime, scores and highlights with Greg and Terry. Quadravez kicking off. Remember what we said at the top of the game. Both coaches felt that we would have a pretty good idea what we're all about in this game. It was a test. Interconference, though, it may be a good barometer as to how they're doing despite the 2-1 record.
Well, if they're taking a temperature here, Minnesota's is 98.6 and Cincinnati's is 107 and in the critical ward.
Eric Ball and Milt Stiegel are back deep. Revev's kick again goes into the end zone. It'll be down there by Milt Stiegel. So Quadravez, last 2 kickoffs have sailed into the end zone or out of the end zone. And the Bengals will start again from the 20.
This crowd doesn't like it, Dick, but do not be surprised if you see running plays here and we see some time just run off the clock so they can get inside and get this thing figured out.
and you can't blame them. The way the Bengals have been outclassed by the Vikings. First down on the 20-yard line. Boomer, his pass up the middle is complete. Tim McGee on the reception. A gain of 6 yards. Todd Scott, the strong safety, makes the tackle. Under a minute to go. Esiason has thrown 2 bad interceptions here in this first half. Back to throw again, and his pass to McGee, and he caught that one, and a good catch on the pass thrown behind him. A 19-yard pickup to the Bengal 45, and Cincinnati will call a timeout with 45 seconds to go. It is their... They have 1 timeout remaining.
And this is Cincinnati, and Boomer Esiason are just trying to make something happen. I said they didn't want to do it, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to make something happen. They're throwing the ball down the field. Don't let something bad happen if you're a Cincinnati guy. If you let something bad happen here and a ball is tipped, you don't have a chance in the second half. 28 points, granted, is an awful long way to be down, but it's 4 scores.
To go back to the opening kickoff of the game, Darren Nelson's 53-yard return set the tone for the Vikings, who ended up scoring. They had capitalized on 2 other turnovers.
Well, not only the crowd, but this entire Bengal team seems stunned by what they've seen from the Vikings.
First down on the 45 of Cincinnati, and they dump the pass off to Harold Green, and Green dives forward and may have a first down. He does. Into Minnesota territory. Mike Merriweather on the tackle. Bengals have 1 timeout left. They're in their 2-minute drill. Dolman puts pressure on Esiason, who goes down and gets it off to Green. And Green can't get out of bounds, and the clock now stops at 21 seconds as Carl Lee made the stop on Green.
Well, now we're getting down the field for Cincinnati. Remember 2 things. 1, Jimmy Breach does not have a very strong leg. They will not use Breach from about 45 yards out. But they do have Lee Johnson, as we see Kenny Walker leaving on the cart there towards the Bengals locker room. Lee Johnson is their long-range field goal kicker, but Lee Johnson has a back problem. So they need here at least, and we're saying at least, 15 to 20 yards before they get in reasonable Breach range.
Longest field goal successful for Breach was a 41-yarder last week. He has missed a couple from 47 and 48. And it's apparent that Lee Johnson will not be trying any long field goals, and that does affect the play calling for the Bengals here.
Well, and Jim Breach is the first one to tell you that Lee Johnson has prolonged his career. You know, Ray Wershing was a kicker for the 49ers who was released because he could not kick the long field goals. Breach is so accurate, they have a guy that's a punter that can kick the long ones, but they don't, I think, have him here.
Cincinnati has used up its last timeout. 2nd down and 8. On the 42, Esiason's pass. And the reception, and driving way back that time as McGee makes another catch. Time is running out. A 7-yard pickup. Going to have to try to stop the clock in a hurry, and he does with that much time remaining. 5 seconds. So they're going to be out of field goal range, and let's see where they spot the ball.
Slight problem of not spotting the ball in the right place.
They're 5 yards off on the spot. How does Minnesota feel about that?
Well, the officials are saying, come on, guys, let's talk about this. They got on the line of scrimmage 3 yards behind the actual mark, and they let them snap it. Gordon McCarter, he says, I got to get an explanation, guys, because I'm the one that has to write the report to the league at the end of this game and tell them why we did this.
Everyone's in on the act here. Well, the Bengals are not going to be able to try a field goal. So they're going to have to go for a Hail Mary now.
We've reset the clock to 14 seconds. 14.
Well, that's a break for the Bengals.
That's a big break. That gets them a play to get down the field, throwing it to the outside so the receiver can get out of bounds.
And you may say, with a score 28-0, what does 3 points mean? Well, it starts you on a road back.
It also gets you inside the all-time comeback record. I mean, the all-time comeback record is 28 points.
10 seconds remaining.
Well, they're going to compromise. They went from 4 to 14 and compromised on 10.
Well, Shula better get this ball snapped pretty quick because it just cost him 4 seconds this extra delay. It's one of the experiences David Shula says he's learned a lot at. I mean, coaches are coaches, but when you're a head coach, you deal with players, you deal with the press, and you deal with officials.
Out of the shotgun on third down, Esiason looking for someone, goes into the end zone, and the pass is almost caught and dropped. Milt Stiegel apparently had the ball in his hands, but lost it as he came down. Carl Lee, amongst others, defending on the play, and that will take care of the first half here, and Cincinnati very nearly came up with a touchdown the last play.
Well, this is the closest thing to excitement Boomer Esiason and this Bengal offense has produced in the first 30 minutes. But how fitting that he goes up, basically has it, and look at Carl Lee. What a nice job by Carl Lee. Strips the ball out.
And that is the end of the first half here at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. With the score, the Vikings 28 and the Bengals nothing.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Cadillac, changing the way you think about American automobiles. Miller Lite, an official sponsor of the NFL and Super Bowl 27. And by Little Caesars Pizza, where you always get 2 great pizzas for 1 low price. His halftime report is sponsored by Levi's Dockers. Nobody does color like Dockers.
Those of you who've been watching the Vikings, that's the Vikings and the Bengals. Welcome back to our studio. Greg Gumbel along with Terry Bradshaw. Minnesota having its way with Cincinnati in the first half, leading it by a score of 28-0. Rich Gannon a couple of touchdown passes, and Chris Carter a TD reception. In Chicago, the Bears are going great guns. They've had a complete attitudinal change, and they lead the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 31-7 as they approach halftime at Soldier Field. It was 17-0 when Chris Miller went on top. Andre Rison will grab the tip ball and Cadillac into the end zone to make it 17-7. But the ground game has been something to watch today by Chicago.
We said earlier in the pregame show that running the football was the best defense in the world for the Bears defense, and with 156 yards rushing in the first half, an excellent job by the offensive line of Chicago.
And then Harbaugh to Wendell Davis, an 11-yard touchdown. The Bears averaging 126 yards rushing a game, already up near 150 yards so far in the game today. They lead the Falcons 31-7. Halftime at the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan, where the Lions have won 11 straight, but they trail Tampa Bay by a score of 10-3 at halftime. Vinny Testaverde came on to start this game. You might recall he was injured last week, but he did start in this game, and Barry Sanders has 45 yards rushing for the Detroit Lions. At Foxborough, they've begun the third quarter. The Buffalo Bills lead the Patriots by a 6-0 count. The Browns hosting the Denver Broncos today at halftime. The Broncos lead it by a field goal. The Houston Oilers are home to the San Diego Chargers, and at the half at the House of Pain, it's a 10-0 Houston lead. Turning to Major League Baseball now, the Pittsburgh Pirates looking to clinch the National League East with a victory today. They lead the Mets 2-0 in the third inning. They can also clinch with a Montreal loss, and the Expos are hosting the Cubs today. That game is scoreless in the fourth inning. And Toronto, well on its way to reducing its magic number. It began the day with a magic number of 5. They lead the New York Yankees by a 7-0 score in the bottom of the second inning at Yankee Stadium. Now back to football. Later today, the Pittsburgh Steelers visit the Packers in Green Bay. Steelers are off to a surprising 3-0 start in the new Bill Cowher regime. Earlier, Terry and I had a chance to chat with the rookie head coach who's done everything right so far, and we asked him about the big turnaround.
Well, Greg, I don't want to get caught up in it. I think we all have to understand it. Only 3 games into the season. It's a 16-game schedule. We've been very fortunate. We've been in 3 very close ball games, and we've been very opportunistic, and we've ended up coming out on the plus end of it.
Bill, I got to ask you, what do you believe was the one thing that convinced Dan Rooney that you were the right guy for this job?
Well, Terry, I don't know. It's something maybe Dan Rooney may be better off answering. But, you know, I think in coming in here with an appreciation of the city and, you know, realizing what's the task that's at hand. And, but I feel very fortunate that they gave me this opportunity.
We all know, at least, that you win football games with defense. I think you would agree to that. How about this defense you have right now? This enthusiasm that they're showing, 15 turnovers leading the league. Your reasons behind that?
Well, I think number one is we got great team speed. There's no question about it. You know, we've given up some big plays, we've given up some yardage, but these guys have been very relentless, very persistent, and the one thing we've been able to do is keep people out of the end zone, and we've got our hands on balls, and we have not dropped balls that have been in the air. You know, interceptions are something that come in bunches, and right now we're not dropping the ball when the ball is being thrown to us.
Bill, you used to be a kamikaze type for the Philadelphia Eagles. Have you gone out of your way to recruit people like that, or to persuade the Steelers that that's the way they ought to play football?
No, I just have an appreciation for that style of game. I think, you know, the game of football is one that should be played obviously heads up, but you got to have fun doing it. You got to play with enthusiasm, and we're trying to do that with this football team.
How does a coach come in and inject new enthusiasm into a club?
I got 20 seconds to do this.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. First of all, I think it's a young man's game. It takes a young coach to come in and to give a young team attitude adjustment. It's a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy. And I think he's done that. He's a defensive guy. Now, you win with defense. He understands it. Pittsburgh is a team that loves defense. Chuck Noll had the same enthusiasm when he came in, and the Steelers, as you well know, went on to win 4 Super Bowls. This looks like this might be another one of those 4 Super Bowl runs, Greg.
Will you be working out in Pittsburgh anytime soon?
I did it under 20 seconds, too.
Back to football and the game you're watching here on CBS after this word from your local station.
Here in Cincinnati, the Vikings lead the Bengals 28-0, and halftime activities will continue after this message. You're watching the NFL on CBS.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? AT&T, we want you back. And by new improved Head and Shoulders. Now it works even better to prevent flakes.
Well, the score here is 28-0 in favor of the Vikings, and so the question has to be asked, and we saw the Giants come back against the Dallas Cowboys. They were down 34-0 and made it close. It doesn't mean Cincinnati will, but when you're down that much, what do you think?
Well, when you're down that much, it's very important for you to be extremely patient. You're down by 28 points. You got to take it one play at a time. For Cincinnati, they get the ball back. They want to make something happen here. From the Minnesota standpoint, they're very good in the first half, but I'm not sure if they're quite as good as they were in this first half. From their concentration standpoint, they've got to keep applying pressure. We've said it numerous times in the first half, but what the Vikings have done well is they have dictated to Cincinnati how this game is going to go. Will they keep doing that?
Cincinnati, should they start to throw deeper now or continue to run the ball and mix it up?
Well, you know, Boomer Esiason's got to have a bit of a confidence problem right now because he was completely ineffective in that first half. 7 of 14 for 68 yards and 2 picks, and 2 very, very bad picks. I mean, to call those bad interceptions is an insult to bad passes.
All right, well, the Bengals at least will get the ball back, and we'll see how they respond after that halftime. Halftime statistics, the only edge by Cincinnati, those 5 sacks, but look at 20 first downs and a time of possession of 21 minutes to only 9 for the Bengals. Revez will kick off for Minnesota. Eric Ball and Milt Stegall back deep for Cincinnati. Ball is on the right. And this should be returnable by Stegall, the rookie, from the 6-yard line. Trying to pick his spots. Stegall still going. And that could get Cincinnati going, down by 4 scores. There's a penalty marker down, and a couple of players are wrestling at the 23-yard line. But a return of 46 yards by rookie Milt Stegall, a free agent from Miami of Ohio, and Fuad Revez, the kicker, made the stop, and they're still punching each other.
Well, Vince Glenn got into a bit of a tete-a-tete there on what he considered a bad block, and the official side as a hold. But what followed the bad block was a general kicking, scratching, and screaming fight there on the ground.
And the penalty will be against Cincinnati.
Holding. Receiving team has failed to get the number during the return. 10 yards, first time.
And whoever committed the foul is so glad he failed to get the number.
You know, I don't know who he was, but he's guilty. He's guilty. And since I didn't get the number, I'll call it on the whole team.
I'm Sure, the player is pleased he never got the number.
Boy, if it's not one thing, it's another for the Bengals. They had a chance to be at the 50. Now they're backed up, and Dolman's got to be thinking pass rush here.
Starting from the 12-yard line, first down, and a running play to Green, looking for running room. Green breaks out of it and vaults over a defender and gets 6 yards for all his work. Felix Wright making the tackle for Minnesota.
From an effective standpoint, that is the type of running play we're going to see from the Bengals in this second half. There's going to be delayed draws. Quick hitting runs won't work now.
Esiason hits Jim Riggs, his tight end. He may have the first down, and he should with his forward progress. And it will be for the Bengals a gain of 7 yards on the play. Lining up a hurry and a no-huddle offense.
Dick, Kevin Sargent is in for Anthony Munoz at left tackle. Something we definitely did not expect to see. He was not hurt in the first half.
First and 10 on the 25-yard line. Esiason's pass up the middle of McGee. Tim McGee had to be turned around, but he held on to that pass. A 6-yard gain. Mike Merriweather on the stop, so they're pecking away in this first series. They had a great kickoff return by Milt Stiegel, and that was nullified by a holding penalty.
Number 82.
Second down and 4, and on the draw play, Green, and he's going to be nailed behind the line of scrimmage by John Randall for a loss. 3-yard loss on the play.
And here comes a situation that Boomer and the Cincinnati Bengals did not handle very well at all in the first half, and that's 3rd and long. We've got an inexperienced left tackle blocking on Dolman. Sargent.
3rd down and 7. Esiason looking, and his throw is ruled a completed pass by Brian Brennan. That was not a good pass. Esiason is clearly off the mark in this game, but he completes an 8-yarder thanks to Brian Brennan's great hands. But the Bengals are inching closer to midfield, down by 4 scores.
If you're looking to make something happen, get the ball in the hands, in the Pickens' hands, the great returner. Let him catch it.
McGee knocked out of bounds. And a good chunk of yardage there, a gain of 8 yards. Audrey McMillan, who has an interception in the game for the Vikings and was shaken up with a sprained shoulder, is back in the lineup here in the second half. 2nd down and 2 for Cincinnati. To Green. The word on Anthony Munoz is that he has a strained right shoulder, and that's why Kevin Sargent is in there, and Munoz will not be back a game.
For a guy like Munoz to miss, it's got to be major.
Loss of 1 on the play, and the pass is caught by McGee and goes out of bounds. And a penalty marker is down at midfield. Cincinnati would have a first down if the penalty is against Minnesota.
It is against Minnesota, Dick.
On defense, 5-yard penalty.
Boy, Dennis Green will try anything with a 28-0 lead here. He doesn't have to put 12 on the field.
Well, that's a case where Cincinnati did make a substitution. Minnesota tried to make the substitution, and that's when you get the 12-man penalty call.
Oh, I know he didn't do it on purpose. Here's Esiason's pass. He was trying to go to Holman, the tight end. And Boomer, sort of a slingshot throw and into coverage.
Well, he's got to be very aware of where his pass rush is coming from. Look for the Bengals to give a lot of help over there to Sargent, number 77 at left tackle. Whether it's a running back or a tight end in motion, they're going to get a little hit on Dolman.
Derek Fenner is coming to the game and running back for the Bengals. 2nd down and 10. And Esiason is sacked back on his own 39 by Chris Dolman, who now has 6 sacks on the year. Came into the game right behind the league leaders.
Watch this stunt. Thomas goes outside, Dolman comes underneath, and he does what he says. He says you got to cut Boomer in half. Don't take a piece, get him low and take the whole body. What a start, 92 for Chris Dolman.
Now 3rd and 18. Out of the shotgun is Esiason. And Al Loga comes storming in to meet Boomer Esiason up close and personal. See, the Bengals are pleading their case to Gordon McCarter.
Encroachment, number 99 on the defense.
That was big time
The
encroachment.
offense was permitted to reset. It was a delayed charge by the defense. 5 yards, still 3rd down.
It is still 3rd and long following that 5-yard penalty by Al Logan. 3rd and 13. The ball is at the 45 of the Bengals. Here comes the pressure on Esiason. He steps up and his pass is tipped and intercepted again by the Minnesota Vikings. Their 3rd of the ball game, and this time it was Todd Scott, his 2nd of the game. This has to be the worst that Esiason has played in quite some time.
Ask any.
Well, Boomer's last pass was intended for Pickens right here, bringing him over here and trying to drop it between 2 zones. We saw Rich Gannon throw a ball earlier to Steve Jordan, and when he was hot, he dropped it in. Well, Boomer stepping up is trying to drop one in with a little finesse. But right here he has the finesse of a water buffalo, throws it over by about 5 yards, and it's a pick.
And a 1st down for the Vikings on their 30-yard line with 11:13 remaining in the 3rd quarter. Leading 28-0, and Terry Allen going off the left side. Picks up good yardage to the 36. Is it all Esiason on those passes, or is he getting some help to mess him up as much as he is?
Well, I think he's getting a lot of pressure, and you never give enough credit to the defense. When a quarterback, especially a quarterback as good and as experienced as Boomer Esiason, is having problems, it's more than just a bad day for him. You got to give some credit to the players and the defensive staff led by Tony Dungy of Minnesota, putting a great game plan together.
Crowd was yelling for Don Hollis, the backup quarterback, after that series. Penalty marker down, and Allen rushing and has the 1st down. And we may have an illegal procedure call against the Vikings after a pickup of 4 yards.
Yeah, the motion man went forward towards the line of scrimmage.
Illegal motion, 82 offense, 5 yards.
Dante Whitaker, Tony Dungy, who has really made a big difference in the defense for the Vikings.
That's Tony Dungy in the middle with the glasses on. And I mean, that is a great defensive coordinator, but that is also a head coach waiting to happen. Somebody in the Midwest, somebody with a class organization is going to get real lucky to get him as a head coach.
2nd down and 8, and the quick toss to Jordan, the tight end. Will bring up 3rd and short. Dungy has been a candidate for many jobs so far.
But he's in the position where he doesn't have to take a resume job. There are certain teams and cities in this league where being a head coach is a resume job. It's just so 5 years from now, after you get fired at the place you took the job as the resume job, you can say, I was a head coach. He doesn't have to do that. He's in a good enough position he can wait for the job he wants.
3rd down and 3 on the Viking 37-yard line, leading 28-0. Gannon's pass intended for Chris Carter, incomplete. Eric Thomas was covering. So the Vikings, who capitalized on the first 2 turnovers by Cincinnati, cannot do so here. And Harry Newsom will come in to kick the ball away.
Well, when Cincinnati gets the ball back here, you're going to be quite a few boos here when Boomer runs back out on the field. But I don't think there's a quarterback in the league with a thicker skin, a better attitude, and more of a sense of humor about really what he does. He keeps everything in perspective than Boomer Esiason.
Carl Pickens is back, and Newsom will kick. This is the first time today the Vikings have had 3 and out offensively, and the ball will go into the end zone. So the kicking game has been superb for Minnesota, and Cincinnati will have to start from the 20 following that 63-yard punt. It's all purple and gold today here at Riverfront Stadium. Next Sunday, following the NFL today, the Bears, who are winning big against the Falcons, and the Vikings, who are stomping all over Cincinnati. The big first game, the Rams and 49ers. Most of you will see the second game on CBS Sports. And Some of you will check out Washington and Phoenix in NFC East battle. First down on the 20-yard line for Cincinnati. Penner is the running back. Stepping up as Esiason, and it's in the air and it's intercepted. And that appears to be Todd Scott for his third interception of the ball game.
Now this crowd is booing Boomer Esiason. That pass had nothing to do with Boomer Esiason. That was a Chris Dolman interception. He, of about 8-foot wingspan, reached in there and caught Boomer's arm and made that ball helicopter out like that.
That was a dying quail in the air and an easy pickoff for the Vikings.
Watch Dolman coming inside on the stunt. Look at his left arm right there. Just did tip it. Now here's Chris Dolman working against Sargent. Comes inside, goes against Arthur, the center, gives him the left arm throw, and just does get that paw in there and tip that pass.
And a first down on the 30-yard line. Gannon is going up the middle to Chris Carter. Touchdown, Vikings! They struck in a hurry on that play following the turnover. And Chris Carter with his second touchdown reception in this game. That's 4 in the last 2. And the Minnesota Vikings continue to stomp on the Bengals.
This is record book and highlight film material here, folks. Gannon having a great game today, throwing to a receiver that has more catches today in this game in less than 3 quarters than he had in 3 games coming in.
10 catches for 110 yards, 2 touchdown receptions, and Juan Revez makes it 35-0 following that 30-yard touchdown pass, as the Vikings have capitalized of 3 of 4 turnovers by the Bengals. Don Hollis apparently will be coming in as quarterback for the Bengals, who trail the Minnesota Vikings 35-0. Boomer Esiason has thrown 4 interceptions, not all of them his fault, and Todd Scott has been the beneficiary of 3 of those, as Esiason career high 5 interceptions against New England 4 years ago, as Revez kicks off again into the end zone, and Ball will down it there along with Stiegel. Cincinnati will come out to the 20 again.
Chris Carter lining up here in the slot. Watch this. Runs up. Vincent bumps him. Then he goes straight up the field. Vincent, 34, right here is going to hit him. Let him go. 6 points. Stick a fork in it. It's done.
And Carter tied his career high with 10 receptions in 1 game. So Don Hollis has come in for the besieged Boomer Esiason. Those are his career numbers. He is in his 2nd year out of Rice, out of the Southwest Conference. Cincinnati will have it 1st and 10 from the 20-yard line. Trailing 35-0 with 9:18 to go in the 3rd quarter. And the give off is to Derek Penner. Bursts up the middle, and Penner has a first down. So with the opening kickoff we talked about, that set the tone, but the Bengals have been victimized. 4 interceptions, and the Vikings have scored touchdowns on 3 out of the 4 interceptions.
There's Boomer. This is not a substitution because of play as much as substitution because of psyche. A bad game like this can affect your mind.
Hollis's first pass nearly picked off by McMillan. The intended receiver was McGee.
And this is possibly, or not possibly, this is the most unfair and unrealistic situation to put a quarterback into. He's got absolutely nothing at his disposal except his passing game, and he hopes, beyond hope, that they can keep the rush off.
Hollis played in 6 games and started 1 last season. Probably never thought he'd get into this game. Was figured to be close at the outset. Penner carries. Pickup of 3 yards with Henry Thomas making the tackle. Long day, but not a long day for Boomer Esiason. Only about a half, and those were his numbers.
I said before, I don't think you put all the blame on Boomer. I think you get an awful lot of credit to this Minnesota defense that has done just a superb job today.
3rd down and 7 for Cincinnati with Don Hollis at the helm. Away from Merriweather and runs for the first down. Pretty good alert Cooper for 12 yards. Del Rio and Van Waiters made the stop, but it was Merriweather who very nearly had him by the shoulder.
Well, they were bringing the blitz. Minnesota's got 6 guys coming here. Merriweather from the outside, Culpepper from the other side. Merriweather just got a hand on him. He scrambles. You know, this is a guy that's come from Rice. You know he's been down in a few games before playing at Rice in that Southwest Conference.
Sometimes they start the game trailing 35-0. But that's a fine academic institution, Randy. Let's give them credit where credit is due. First down on the 45 of the Bengals, trailing by 5 touchdowns. Benner with a good cut inside, and it could be another first down for the Bengals. They may be short by a yard. Todd Scott making the stop.
Now, this is the situation. They're down 35-0, but at this point, Cincinnati is still trying to reassert itself and just get control of the pace and the conditions of this game.
Pickup was 9 yards. They got into Viking territory. Hollis is hit and sacked as the whistle blows, and a loss on the play of 4 yards. Henry Thomas picking up the 3rd sack of the game for the Minnesota Vikings.
Henry Thomas, 97, comes off the middle of the line right there. He can be like a blink sometimes. Here's a guy coming, work over the left guard right there. Wow, beat Kozerski clean. He's gotten moves that are, like I said, kind of like a blink. He's just gone.
3rd down and 5 at midfield. Less than 6.5 to play in the 3rd. Here they come on Hollis, and he's down again. Another sack, the 2nd in a row. And this time it's Al Noga. So all 4 starting defensive linemen for the Vikings have picked up sacks this afternoon, and a loss of 7.
Now here's a clinic kind of a situation for a defensive line. They just start trying stuff. Noga's got a new guy in Sargent playing left tackle. He goes, here's a big guy. I'll use my lean, I'll use my momentum, I'll get underneath him and see if I can bull rush him to the quarterback. Good job, worked perfectly, just as planned.
So Lee Johnson will come in to kick, and Anthony Parker back deep for the Vikings. Toward the sideline, and Johnson's kick goes out of bounds just about at the 10-yard line. Well, a beautiful day today in Cincinnati, and a lot of the fans here want to enjoy some of it, but it won't be here at Riverfront Stadium. Story here in Cincinnati. The Vikings lead the Bengals 35-0, and barring a miracle comeback by the Bengals, the Vikings will finally, in their history, win a game here at Riverfront Stadium. They will start from their 9-yard line. Rich Gannon all the way at quarterback. He was the questionable quarterback with the broken hand, but Esiason is the guy who isn't finishing. He came out early here in this half. Roger Craig, off right tackle, takes it out to the 16-yard line where James Francis makes the stop, a gain of 7.
We got our new coaches. We got a little report card for him. David Shula, we're going to say he's 2-2. He's a rookie coach. So far, doing a pretty good job. Let's give him a B-. Denny Green, 3-1. Got to give him an A. Bill Cowher, got to give him an A. Bobby Ross, incomplete, don't know. Mike Holmgren, incomplete, don't know. Hard to say at that time. Being a rookie coach is tough.
You're an easy grader, that's for sure.
I grade on the curve, Dick.
Craig will have a first down for the Vikings. Bussey makes the tackle. What about the older new coaches?
Well, the old faces in new places. Sam Weich, I like what he's doing. He gets an A, and he's a big guy here in Cincinnati. Flores gets another incomplete. Chuck Knox gets an NF, because it's not fair grading anybody on that team in L.A. I'm not a real fan of that Ram team. I don't think they have much talent. And Ted Marchibroda we'll give him a UH, because he's going all the way uphill working in Indianapolis.
First down on the 27-yard line. I could have used you in college because I didn't see any C's or D's there. You know, those incompletes don't look as bad as those C minuses.
Yeah, you think Hollis has a hard time being a quarterback in this situation when they're down 35-0? How about these poor girls trying to get the people in the stands here to cheer?
or to stay.
Yeah. They're saying go Bengals, and the people in the stands are going, yeah, go, just go. Is that excitement?
Or what?
Lightning in a bottle.
Second down and 12 at the 25-yard line with 3:50 remaining in the third quarter. Running for his life. And that's the mobility that the Vikings like as Gannon runs out of bounds. And made something out of nothing and actually picked up 11 yards.
Dick, why is Rick Gannon still in the ball game? I know it's not even the fourth quarter yet, but here's a guy that's got a fractured bone in his hand. Sean Salisbury is a guy that played almost all of training camp before the first preseason game. Denny Green's very happy with him. Why risk this guy to injury?
You know, that was a question I was about to ask you. And there's Sean Salisbury, who had to come in last week. But it's a good question. And one we'll ask Dennis after the game about. First and 10 now at the 37. Vikings in total control of this game and still throwing. Francis is chasing Gannon and actually got his shoe top. And a gain of 5 yards for Gannon, who may want to be the leading rusher in this game for Minnesota.
He's looking over to the sideline over his shoulder. Sean, you warm yet? You ready to go? See, Gannon is a very motivated, almost when you talk to him, almost a nervous kind of guy. I referred to the guys in our production meeting last night. I said, you know, he's kind of an Avis personality. He thinks he's always kind of the second best guy, and he's always got to be fighting. He doesn't get the respect he deserves. But I tell you, Rich, you put these kind of games on the board you've had today, you'll get respect in a heartbeat.
Where did you rent your car from this week? Second down and 4 at the 43. And Gannon's toss. He was going for Hassan Jones, who caught a big one earlier in the first half. Incomplete. And that'll bring up third down. Chicago leading Atlanta 31-14, and Detroit trailing early in front of Tampa Bay 16-10.
And remember, that is up in the Dome. That's a tough place to play. Detroit's got a long streak going there at home.
So Tampa Bay has done pretty well on the road in that game thus far.
They really have. Sam Weich has done a fabulous job, specifically with two things. Vinny Testaverde and that Floyd Peters defense is really getting after people with some great young players.
Gannon doesn't like what he sees at the line, and so Minnesota will call a timeout. Well, it's third down and 4, and he wasn't going to take any chances, even with a 35-0 lead. So the Vikings call a timeout. Randy and I will be back at Riverfront. Next Saturday at 2:30 Eastern, Baseball 92. If there's a game that means something in the pennant race, we'll be there, or you'll see one of the contenders for one of the pennant races. The LCS is coming up soon, and the World Series as well, and it all begins with Baseball 92 at 2:30 Eastern. Third down and 4 at the 43 of the Minnesota Vikings. They have called a timeout to talk about this play coming up. One of the Cincinnati Bengals. Alfred Williams almost got the handoff, and a loss on the play of 7 yards. They called a timeout to set up that.
Nice play. He was right with Anthony Carter. Speaking of sticking with, watch Alfred Williams. Right here. Carter's coming around. They just run this one too many times.
So Carl Pickens will go back deep for the Bengals, and Harry Newsom will kick for Minnesota. Blocked. And the Bengals finally catch a break. After trailing 35-0 with 1:43 to go, they'll have the ball on the 15-yard line. Alex Gordon was the man in there, and apparently he made the block on Harry Newsom's punt.
Just smothered it. Finally, a big play for the Bengals. Watch Newsom. Watch where he has to go to get this snap. Down low. It skids. He follows through. Doesn't have a chance. Oh, what a great block. Eric Ball got all over that ball. Blocked it and spun it out. Watch Eric Ball coming right there. Right up the gut. Picks knocks it right off his foot.
And a first down on the 15-yard line. And here's Harold Green. And Green, who came into the game second in the AFC in rushing, has 9 yards and has 37 yards on the day. Van Waiters and Felix Wright making the tackle as the Vikings have smothered Cincinnati's running game, and the band has decided.
Band, where are you going? Cincinnati finally blocked the kick, guys. You're Ohio State. It's a Buckeye State. Get back here. There's something good happening here on the field.
No loyalty there.
They can still dot the I here.
Across the T. No, they don't have that in Ohio. 2nd and 2 on the 7th. Bengals trying to score. Pass intended for McGee. Almost thrown into the turf. Felix Wright and Audrey McMillan. McMillan, the chief tormentor there, and that will bring up 3rd down.
Well, Hollis Dick went to pull the trigger on that one and saw that coverage coming in and just threw that one into the ground. You've got a receiver like a Pickens, Dick, a track guy, one of those many Tennessee fast guys. He's faster than heck. You got to think he can also jump, as good of a receiver as he really is. Why not put a ball up in the air and let him go after it on a one-on-one situation?
3rd down and 2. 2 downs to try to get it. Here's Green. And Green will have the first down for Cincinnati as he is stopped short of the goal line. A pickup of 5 yards. Vincey Glenn defending on the play.
Almost a sprint draw delay here where Hollis comes back, hands it off, and Kozerski and Arthur are doing a great job in the middle, just powering the guys out of there.
Green comes out of the game, was slightly shaken up. It'll be 1st and goal on the 1 for the Bengals. Derek Fenner. Has replaced Green. 21 seconds remaining in the 3rd quarter.
If you're the #1 rushing team in the league, you just drill this in.
And here's Fenner. And no signal, and Fenner is stopped short of the goal line by the Viking defense, and that will be the last play of the 3rd quarter. Mike Merriweather made the stop for the Vikings, and they'll have to go to the other end of the field. And that's the end of the 3rd quarter with the score. The Vikings 35, the Bengals nothing. Our coverage will continue after this message from your local station. You're watching the NFL on CBS. Welcome back to Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. Dick Stockton and Randy Cross. The Cincinnati Bengals have a chance to score, and if you're the Vikings defensively, you want to stop them, obviously.
This is a pride situation. This is where the defense, their coaches, Tony Dungy up in the booth, they just want to keep this goose egg on the scoreboard. They will do everything they can to keep Cincinnati out of the end zone. There will be no let up in the Vikings.
2nd and goal on the 1-yard line. And the give is to the Cincinnati Bengals finally get on the scoreboard. Derek Fenner. See, Tony Dungy didn't have an answer for that.
And a nice job. Fenner, the guy that had 14 rushing touchdowns a couple years ago for Seattle, leading the NFL, just drives that one in. Notice you saw no bodies above the white jerseys in the middle there. The white jerseys of the Bengals had either engulfed or moved the purple jerseys of the Vikings out of the way.
Jim Breach in to try the extra point, and the kick is good. So the Minnesota Vikings lead 35-7 on the first play of the 4th quarter.
Summary is sponsored by Coors Light.
Terry Allen with 3 touchdowns today, 2 as a rusher. Chris Carter ties his career high with 10 receptions, and for the 2nd straight week, 2 touchdown catches. 5 sacks for the Bengals isn't amounted to much, and Minnesota has capitalized on turnovers to the tune of 21-0. And in this game, Todd Scott has 3 interceptions for the Minnesota Vikings, the 2nd-year safety who replaced Joey Browner in the Minnesota lineup. In his second year out of Southwest Louisiana, his first 3 NFL interceptions.
Well, it's a great highlight for Todd Scott, but those balls were basically thrown right at him. And, you know, we talked about the band earlier. Look at this. They said, hey, we're from Ohio State. They're folding up the chairs. You think they think this one's over or not? Ohio State says, look, they're crummy seats. They're low. They're in the end zone. We got hot uniforms on. And if the game's like this, we ain't staying. We're going home. We're back to Columbus.
Jim Breach on the kickoff. And Anthony Parker returns for the Vikings. And brings it out to the 37-yard line. Darrell Williams making the tackle. So Rich Gannon remains in at quarterback for the Vikings. He has been in there all the way, broken hand and all.
Buffalo 41-0 over New England. That's a New England team that generally has put up a real good fight against the Bills.
Patriots are the only AFC East team that beat the Bills last year. First down for the Vikes on the 37. Terry Allen is the running back. Gannon has enough time, and his pass to Chris Carter is caught. And Gannon threw it into coverage, and Chris Carter made the catch, good for 14 yards. Rob Jones on the tackle, and a career high for Chris Carter with his 11th reception.
Well, we talked about it earlier. If Boomer throws this pass, it's an interception. Gannon is hot. He's got that confidence. No matter where it is, he thinks he can throw it in there. Look at that. I mean, he is covered, and he throws it to the exact point that Carter's going to get it.
First down on the 49-yard line. Terry Allen. Penalty marker is down, and Allen is stopped for a loss of a yard or 2. Daniel Stubbs storming in for the Bengals defensively. Carter also has 124 yards receiving and a pair of touchdowns. And here's a guy who was in a slump before last week.
Well, 8 catches going into the game.
It'll be against Minnesota.
Illegal formation, offense, 1 eligible receiver covering another eligible on the line of scrimmage. Penalty is declined. Second down.
Well, of course that's a penalty, Dick. Got 2 guys on offense can't cover each other.
Unless they change uniform. Those are Carter's numbers today. Chris Carter.
Unbelievable. We were in Dallas last week, saw Michael Irvin put 210 yards up, and this is just as an impressive performance because he's done it his style. Underneath, short, he's really taken what they've given him.
Second down and 11, midfield. And here comes Carter, another fake end around, and a flip to Terry Allen. Bobbled it, caught it, has the first down, and still going for the Vikings, and out of bounds at about the 30-yard line. Right now, for an NFL Today update, let's go to New York and Greg Gumbel. Greg?
All right, Dick, at Soldier Field in Chicago, the Falcons are making a game of it. Chris Miller, his second TD pass of the game to Andre Rison. Miller then came back and threw a 23-yarder to Tony Jones, and the Falcons have crept to within 10 at 31-21 in the third, Dick.
All right, so the Falcons trying to make a comeback. And the Vikings with a first down on the 31-yard line of the Bengals. Roger Craig is the lone running back. Gannon's pass down. Actually, it was thrown into the numbers of James Francis. Gannon very nearly hit from the blind side.
He was smacked pretty good from the blind side, Dick. He was really drilled down. Watch him after this throw. He's just planted into the ground. That ball's knocked down by Francis. Might have been intercepted. But you got to think Gannon's got to come out of the game here. He's got 280 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, passing for a great percentage. But why is he in?
And that's with a broken hand. He's done all that. Second down and 10. And still throwing. Cincinnati Bengals defense.
Well, now, folks, we're moving into the territory of insulting. You're up by 28. You're sending your receivers deep into the end zone. Rod Jones was not even close. You give a receiver 2 yards in the NFL, you might as well put 6 points on the board.
You know, most clubs, when they have a lead like this, as Revez gets set to kick the extra point, usually will run out the clock even earlier than this with a big lead.
But what they're doing is they're running their offense. But their offense has been so effective, it's getting ugly.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Oldsmobile, the power of intelligent engineering. Cold filtered Keystone, Keystone Light, and Keystone Dry. And by Fram Oil Filters. Fram, you can pay a little now or a lot later.
And what a show put on by the Viking defense. How about Rich Gannon with his numbers? He's 24 for 30, 311 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
He's having fun. Look at that smile. And Salisbury's next to him going, can I go in? Now can I go in? And Gannon's going, nah, I'm having too much fun. You can't go. Come on. Let me take this hat off. I'll go warm up. Let me go in.
4 touchdown passes is a career high for Rich Gannon. And this is a day at the beach for the Minnesota Vikings, who lead 42-7.
Well, look at Salisbury. Does that look like a quarterback that's just aching to get in the game? Arms back, legs folded over.
Wide Revez will be kicking off. Ostel Miles, a rookie, and Milt Stiegels, another first-year man, is back. And it's going to be Miles at the 6-yard line, returning for Cincinnati. And Miles, a 9th-round draft pick out of the University of Houston, is tackled by Bensy Glenn after an 18-yard return.
And Ostel made one of the prime mistakes young kick returners usually make. He ran up there about 15 yards and then sort of semi-stopped to try to make something happen. You catch a kick, you just got to go from point A to point B. Pickens did it last week, that long return. Deion Sanders did it again at Washington with that big long return. You don't make moves on people. The way to beat people is with speed on returns.
First down, Don Hollis. The quarterback came in early in the second half for Boomer Esiason, who had an off day, as the entire Bengal team has had an off day. And Hollis goes down.
Chris Dolman hasn't had an off day, Dick.
No, he hasn't. That is his second quarterback sack. That gives him 7 on the year and off to a terrific start.
Here he is, working against Sargent. Oh, that's called no contest. That's illegal in 7 states in this country. That was just terrible. Whoa. Dolman came into the game, tied for the lead in the NFL with 5 sacks with Santana Dotson of Tampa.
Each team with 5 quarterback sacks today. Second down and 19. And a running play. Fenner dives forward to the 20-yard line. Ray Berry making the stop. So we're seeing reserves on both sides liberally sprinkled into this game, and we still have 12:35 as of right this second remaining in the 4th quarter. This was a game in which both teams felt that they could win. Cincinnati was a slight favorite, both coming in 2-1. Find out what we're all about, and unfortunately for the Bengals, they got to be licking their wounds.
Well, the Bengals aren't that bad, and I'm not sure the Vikings are quite this good.
I agree with that. 3rd down and 13. Hollis flushed out of the pocket and goes out of bounds, and Cincinnati will have to kick it away as Mike Merriweather didn't chase it. Cincinnati will get the bye week next week, and if there ever was a team that could use a bye week, it's the Bengals, and then they'll come back with 4 straight games against AFC Central Division
foes. And the tough streak they have in there is they have Pittsburgh at home, or Houston, then Pittsburgh, then Houston.
And then a Cleveland game, so 4 straight, and then they have to play Chicago and the Jets on the road, so it doesn't get easy for them. Parker is back, and Lee Johnson will kick for Cincinnati. Parker with a fair catch at the 31-yard line, and a good kick by Lee Johnson. There's Sean Salisbury, who's not as mobile as Rich Gannon, but kind of a quarterback that Dennis Green likes. He's trying to develop an offense similar to the Washington Redskins, and he doesn't have the big tight ends. Jordan is more of a receiving tight end. He doesn't have the big fullback, but he's going to try and get him in the draft.
I think this guy shouldn't be warming up on the sideline. He should have started to throw at when they scored that last touchdown. I don't think Rich Gannon belongs in the ball game right here. I think this is ridiculous.
First down on the 30. Henderson is in at running back and gets the call on first down. And Henderson was acquired from the 49ers prior to the Tampa Bay game and getting his first shot and a gain of 4 with Randy Kirk on the stop. The Minnesota Vikings will play a tough schedule coming up. You know, the Bears, which most of you will see next week on CBS. And then after an off week, 3 tough games against the Lions, Redskins, and at Chicago.
Well, Dick, until today, you would say Chicago's tough, but how tough are they really? And putting 31 up quick against the Falcons has got to impress a lot of people.
Second down and 5 on the 35-yard line, and Henderson is hit quickly and stopped for no gain by Daniel Stubbs.
Now we're seeing a little bit more of the conservative style of offense out of Denny Green and the Vikings, less of the over-the-top, our natural kind of thing. You know, this has got to be Gannon's last series. They're going to get Salisbury in here next to sort of run the wishbone.
And we saw Henderson run a couple of plays. He's more of a kind of a big back that the Vikings are looking for.
Well, he's a big back that can catch. I mean, the 49ers just got tired of his injuries and on occasion tired of his attitude, and he's got a new opportunity in Minnesota.
Third down and 6, and the pass is caught. That'll be a first down for Minnesota. Jake Reed making the tackle, or making the reception for the Vikings. Reed will go out wide to the left, along with Joe Johnson, the former Washington Redskin. First and 10 at the 42-yard line. 9:50 remaining in the game. Henderson up the middle, and Henderson picks up good yardage. Close to 7 yards on first down. Ridgel and Williams on the stop. Long day for that youngster. David Shula, just 33 years old.
You know, everything that happens in this league is a lesson, especially when you're a new coach. You remember the old TV series Kung Fu, where the old guy sort of put his arm around David Carradine. Well, grasshopper, everything happens for a reason. Well, David Shula can't think of the reason right now, but there's a real good reason. This will be a learning opportunity for the Bengals.
Second down and 5 at the 47-yard line. And Henderson again with the call. And it'll be third down and short with Stubbs on the tackle. And right now for an update on the Falcon-Bears game, let's check in once more with Greg Gumbel. Greg?
All right, Dick, the Falcons got within 10, but here come the Bears again. Brad Muster, 14 yards around the right side into the end zone, and with the point after, it's a 38-21 Bears lead. Still a minute 18 to play in the third quarter at Soldier Field, Dick.
And the Bears and the Vikings will battle it out next week, and I guess we'll find out how good next week the Vikings were this week.
How good are both these teams? See Henderson being worked on, knee a little tweak there. But, you know, it's really big weeks for both these teams, Minnesota and Chicago. But, you know, aside from these 2 games, how about this Atlanta team? Atlanta Falcons got kind of the Palace Revolt deal working with Chris Miller and Deion Sanders and Andre Reed going on the NFL Today with Leslie Visser talking about, you know, we are tired of this. This guy holds grudges. I mean, he's got guys publicly coming out against him. You can't have that as a head coach. Jerry Glanville better get a hold of that situation now.
And, of course, losing this game, you know, he could have erased all of that with a win in Chicago today to an extent. Not the players' attitudes, but at least to deflame the criticism a little bit, deflect it. But it's going to get worse, apparently. Third down and 3 from the 49-yard line with 8.5 to play. Bengals are showing blitz. And here they come on 3rd and 3. Gannon gets hit, and the pass to Johnson is incomplete.
Now there's a good example of why Gannon does not deserve why he shouldn't be in this ball game. He deserves everything. He's had a great game. But why expose an already injured guy to those kind of shots? I don't understand. Yeah, here comes a splat. Watch the splat coming in here. Thomas, he was beaten earlier for a touchdown. There's a little frustration being taken out on a quarterback, and this isn't the situation you want your starter in.
Harry Newsom will kick, and it is deflected, and it is down at the 40-yard line.
That was a partial block.
Cincinnati takes over, but they're way back.
Working to be the best they can be. Teammates, sponsored by the U.S. Army. There's good reason Barry Sanders sometimes dishes water to his offensive linemen. Due to their blocking, the Detroit Dynamo has become the most elusive running back in the league. Together, Sanders and the Lions line make Detroit's ground game the best they can be.
Finally heard you. Rich Gannon is out of this game now, and he's got that hand in ice, and now he's got that left arm in ice as they tape him up.
Well, that's more of a elbow to the AstroTurf. Look, you got that kind of gaffer tape thing working there, wrapping them all up. I tell you, I hope that stuff, you know, this is kind of an aside, it doesn't have anything to do with football, but when you put tape like that on an arm that hasn't been shaved, you got all that hair on it, ooh, that hurts when you get done.
Going to yell pretty loud when that happens after the game. He's had a brilliant afternoon. Rich Gannon through for the day. Meanwhile, Don Hollis leading the Bengals 1st and 10 at the 39-yard line. And we'll have a delay of the game penalty against Cincinnati.
Before the snap, offense, 5 yards.
Bengals trailed by 35 points, and the last time they lost a game by that much, you have to go back to 1988 when Houston whopped them 41-6. That's what the Vikings offense has managed today, helped along by 4 Cincinnati turnovers. 1st and 15, and a fumble. Covered by the Bengals. Derek Fenner. And right now, let's check in again with Greg in New York.
Hey, Dick, speaking of fumbles, take a look at what happened at the Silverdome. Barry Sanders fumbles, and who comes out of the pack with the football? The rookie, Santana Dodson. 42 yards and a touchdown with the extra point. The Bucs lead the Lions 20-16 in the 4th, Dick.
That would be a stunner if Tampa Bay goes on and wins the game in the Lions' lair, Randy.
You don't want to give a good young team or a young team like Tampa the confidence something like that would give them. They're going to start thinking they can win.
Don Hollis' pass to Eric Ball, incomplete, defended by Eric Everett. Sam Weiss has made an early impact. What grade did you give him? An A, didn't you?
I had to give him an A. You know, and that Santana Dodson, Wheeler, Thomas, that entire defense have really done a great job. And they've got one of the great defensive coordinators, I think, in the last 10 years in Floyd Peters down there. And he's done a fine job with that young talent.
Floyd Peters used to be here in Minnesota. 3rd down and 14. 7:27 remaining in the game. Hollis's pass, and out of the backfield, ball. Greg Thompson into the game.
You know, we were talking about getting Sean Salisbury in from the Minnesota standpoint, and he's been warming up, and it looks like he'll come in now that they've got Gannon all taped up. How about a situation like this? Why not put a David Klingler in here and get him a little bit of experience? He's a 3rd-team guy. He's extremely green, but a great opportunity for him to see some NFL action.
He is the quarterback of the future for the Cincinnati Bengals. And Klingler can learn from Boomer Esiason. There he is, number 15, David Klingler from the University of Houston. Johnson kicking on 4th down. And Anthony Parker retrieves it on the 15-yard line. And down he goes at the 19. So Klingler has a penalty marker down. Man of the future in Esiason, the man of the past and present.
You know, Boomer told us a great story about Klingler. He says, you know, he knows a lot about football. He's got an incredibly strong arm. But he came up to me the other day and said, excuse me, Boomer, where do we get our checks? Boomer said, what? He goes, yeah, where do I get my money? Where do I get my checks? They haven't brought me a check. And he goes, hey, Rook.
Unnecessary roughness after kicking team. 15 yards from the dead ball spot, first down.
He says, hey, Rook, they don't give you your money. You've got to go get your money. He looks at him, oh, where do I go to get my money? He goes, upstairs. It's in the office. Go get your check.
How long did he go without getting any money? He must have had some.
With the kind of bonus he got, missing 3 paychecks, if he's getting paid by the week here in the 3rd week, missing 3 weeks with that kind of a bonus isn't a real big factor.
Penalty was on Riggs on the kicking team. Darren Nelson is in the game at running back, and he gets the carry for the first time today. He doesn't get much. But it was Darren Nelson who returned the opening kickoff of this game, 53 yards. And the first 2 times the Bengals had the ball, it was in Cincinnati territory. They scored twice and never looked back and led 35 to nothing at one point and 42 to 7 now. That youngster,
it's not a pretty thing for a young child to watch a game like this, Dick.
Or for the dad.
The dad looks like he smells something bad, and I've got to agree with him.
Second down and 6. Sean Salisbury completes the plan, passes a first down to Jake Reed. The Lions have taken the lead over Tampa Bay, and it didn't take them long. Mel Gray on an 89-yard kickoff return. They still have 5:40 remaining in the 4th quarter, and the Lions lead the Bucks 23-20.
And there's a devoted fan. That little kid, he's not taking his eyes off his heroes here in Cincinnati.
There's that game at Detroit we were talking about. First down at midfield. 5:21 remaining in this one. And Darren Nelson hit as he receives the handoff from Salisbury, and no gain on the play. Darren Nelson, who was recruited and played for Dennis Green when he was at Stanford. And a shaken up Bengal will come out of the ball game. That's Lamar Rogers. No, it's Elston Ridgel.
Well, Denny Green says, I don't have very many big offensive linemen, but if he does, there's the attorney. Tim Irwin has had a great game today. He is a people mover. He can get through there and he can move people out. And he and that entire offensive line just had a great day today here in Cincinnati.
Like Houston Hoover, he's the people mover. Salisbury in the pocket, fires, intended for Joe Johnson. Ended on the play by Ricky Dixon. And 3rd down coming up.
It's funny, we were here for the team picture yesterday at the stadium. Ricky Dixon comes up to me, and I've never met Ricky Dixon. He goes, hello, how you doing, Randy? I said, fine. He just kind of reaches down and grabs my hand and looks at it. He goes, let me look at this ring. I'm showing my Super Bowl ring, and he says, boy, if I'd have played in that game, we'd have won it. I'd have had me a ring like that. And we beat the Bengals in the Super Bowl after the '88 season, but this is the Super Bowl after the '81 season. Ricky, you'd have been in high school.
Joe Johnson on the receiving end runs for the first time. Darrell Williams. Well, maybe he thought he was that good as a high school player.
That's possible. Ricky's not a guy lacking of confidence.
Gain of 13 yards to Joe Johnson, who has changed his name from Joe Howard when he was a punt returner for the Redskins. Went back to his mother's name, Johnson. First down on the 36-yard line. And Darren Nelson hit immediately by Alfred Williams. And a loss on the play. 5-yard loss. Chris Dolman, off to a great start, has picked up 2 sacks today for 7 on the season amongst the league leaders.
You know, in our production meeting yesterday, too, sitting with our producer, Mark Wolf, our director, Mike Arnold, and Dolman walks in the room, looks at Mike Arnold like they're long-lost buddies. And I thought Dolman was going to adopt this guy. They're going back and forth, and Mike's done a lot of work with Chris. Chris is a very personable guy. He's like the unofficial mayor of the area up there around Minneapolis. They really like this guy, though he doesn't talk to the local media.
Either that or he wants a job when his career's over. Here's Johnson Stockton on the receiving end, and he's hit immediately at the 35.
Well, you know, Chris has been in the league quite a while, and he's been on TV an awful lot, so he's figured this thing out. If you're going to schmooze somebody, you go for the director, because the director calls the shots.
And the producer as well. I mean, Mark Wolf can probably get him some work.
Very efficient drive here by Minnesota. They're basically running the exact same stuff here with Salisbury that Gannon was running earlier. Not real high risk, not real down the field type of stuff.
3rd down and 9 from the 35-yard line. Incomplete. Pass was short, intended for Darren Nelson. Denver over Cleveland, 12-0. David Treadwell with 4 field goals, accounting for all the scoring in that game.
Dan Reeves is, I'm sure, happy to win, but he can't be very happy with his offense. Shut out 30-0 last week by Philadelphia. Goes into this game and still does not score a touchdown.
4th down and 9. And the Vikings are not going to kick the ball. They're on the 35-yard line. There's no question, Randy, they're running their offense as if the score was 0-0. Going deep and incomplete for Jake Reed. Now, I don't understand this. As the Vikings are going for deep passes and going for it on 4th down and very nearly got another touchdown.
Well, this is kind of the good news, bad news, guys. The good news is it's 4th down. We're not going to rub it in. We're just going to sort of run a play. The bad news is we're going back for the throat. We're going downtown. He had him. He was definitely open. There is no doubt that he definitely could have hit Jake Reed there for 6 points.
That would have made it 49-7. So the Bengals take over on downs on the 35-yard line with 2:25 to go. 1st down, very little there.
You know, there's a lot of things David Schuler can talk about in the locker room after this game. You know, one of those, gee, forget about the game and all this other stuff. But a play like that Denny Green ran, that one and the long bomb to Hassan Jones to make it 42-7 at that time, 42-0 at that time, is something David Schuler can use. Denny Green has sort of made an enemy for life here, going to the end zone like this time after time.
2-minute warning here, and we'll be back to Riverfront Stadium after this. 2nd down and 10 at the 35-yard line, and a big hole opens up for Austell Miles. And you know, the other argument against it is that, well, your job is to stop us. You know, we run the offense. You don't like to get beaten badly. Stop us.
When you're down 42-7, you're obviously not stopping too many people, and that usually isn't a real good defense.
9-yard pickup that time by Miles. It'll be 3rd and 1. On the Bengals 44-yard line, Miles again gets enough for the 1st down. Ray Berry making the tackle for Minnesota, a pickup of 5 yards. Vikings will go 3-1 on the year, setting them up for the Bear game at home next week at the Metrodome. Cincinnati will have the week off and then get set to go against 4 straight games against division foes, starting with the Houston Oilers here.
Another member of that offensive line, Kirk Loudermilk, doing a real nice job. I mean, we talked about Crumrye at the beginning of the game, what a great motor he has and how well he's done. How often did we call his name today?
First down on the 48-yard line, and Miles running. And Van Waiters right there to make the play. Cincinnati Bengals upcoming schedule. After the off week, we mentioned the 4 games against the division rivals, and then after that they have 2 road games against the Bears in Chicago and the Jets in New York, and then the Lions. And you look down the schedule, I don't see many breathers for the Cincinnati Bengals the rest of the way, as Dennis Green accepts congratulations, and David Schuler will trot across the field. And that'll that'll do it. The Minnesota Vikings have romped over the Cincinnati Bengals by a score of 42-7, and it is the biggest Vikings victory in 4 years. And our final score here at Riverfront Stadium, the Vikings 42, the Bengals 7. Coming up next, the NFL Today postgame show. You're watching CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League.